Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are in this world. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Career Doctors. We are super excited to have you here today. Sonia and I are chomping at the bit to dive into this topic today. This is perfect for you if you are somebody who has been trying really hard and you're not getting where you want to be in your career, and you've been working hard. You've been putting in the effort, and you're like, why isn't this working? Why do I feel so tired? Why do I not feel empowered and free to actually do what I want to do? Because there's so many of you that, and Sonia and I work with so many beautiful, amazing women that are not reaching their full potential. And you know it. Like, you know it when you're not reaching your full potential. And that's what this episode is about today. So if this sounds like you and you want to reach your full potential and you want to have your needs met and feel really empowered, really free to be who you want to be, please stay tuned. And we'd love it if you said hi. We can both see the chat here along the side here. So please, and if there's things that you're like, oh my gosh, an aha moment or an insight, something that really lands for you, please also let us know, because Sonia and I are here. We've created this series of lives here on LinkedIn really because we see a need. We work with, like I said, so many beautiful and amazing women. And what we've been doing in our society, in our workplaces, isn't working anymore. This keep doing, and doing more and trying to create more and be more is just exhausting people. And so we went through this whole thing ourselves in our own careers and discovered there's pieces that are missing. There's just pieces that we haven't been taught. And that's the thing. A lot of these things, none of us were ever taught. And so our purpose here, our, really intention here is to bring these things out, because we want you all to reach your full potential. We need you shining your light. That's the truth. This world needs it. The workplaces need it. Corporate needs it. We need you to start the businesses that you want to start. We want you to have the impact. And we also want you to freaking love your career and just feel joyful, to feel fulfilled, to feel successful. We've both experienced this and created and transformed our careers to ones that we love. We know it's possible. And we also know the difference it makes, not only in your career, but how that just spreads into every area of your life. So Brandy, so glad you could make it here. Hey, Helen, I am so excited you're here too. I was actually going to message you this morning to remind you that we were going live. Super, super excited to have you all here. So today's topic is all about needs. Ooh, I'm going to try not to get on my soapbox on this one, which is going to be hard for me because I feel so incredibly passionate about this topic. We cannot pour from an empty cup. And I think we all know that. Like, when I say that, I think we get it. Like, most of us get it. Like, you can't give what you don't have. The problem is, we know this intellectually, but a lot of the times we're receiving other messages out in society, maybe from our families or wherever it is, where having your needs met is selfish. Or, for many of us, we became needless. Like, we just acted as if we didn't even have any needs. I did that for many years until I fully acknowledged and owned that, oh my gosh, I actually have needs. And I even think of some of the messaging that I know I've received over the years, that having needs means you're needy, which is just ridiculous. Like, I'm just going to call it and say what it is. We're humans. We are not robots. We have souls. We are souls. We have needs. Otherwise, why would we be here in this human experience? It's not needy and it's not selfish and all those messaging that we've received. And here's the thing. If you don't have your needs met, it's going to be really damn hard to ever reach your full potential. And like I said at the beginning, we need you shining your light. We need you actually reaching that full potential. The world needs you. So if this sounds like something that really entices you, please stay tuned, grab a pen and paper. I'll share, actually Sonia will share in a couple of minutes exactly what this live is going to be about. I've given you the broad overview. So question, we always love to start with a question. where do you feel right now in terms of having your needs met on a scale of 1 to 10? So 1 being they're not really being met right now in your career, versus 10 where you're like, woohoo, we're like, we're rocking it out every day. I'm feeling like my cup is full at the end of each day, and things are beautiful and amazing. So we'd love to see where you are. Please feel free to throw that in the comment. And also to mention that we have a Telegram group. If that is something you are interested, you can get support there. You know, we share all the updates about what's happening here on our lives. And, you know, it's a great place to cheerlead. Part of this whole process is connecting with other people who are doing this, because here's the thing, we are all connected. And when we see people around us that are modeling something and embodying something, that is truly powerful. We were never meant to do this journey alone. And I think that's one of the things that Sonia and I both feel so passionate about. It's like, we're not meant to do this alone. We're meant to actually work together to support each other, to bring new insights in, and to really help each other shine. So if that is something you are interested in, just send Sonia and I a DM, and we'll be happy to send you the link. Okay. So my intro, like I said, I'm trying not to go too far on my soapbox, but I'm pretty excited about this topic. So I'll just quickly introduce myself. If we haven't crossed paths, my name is Andrea Horvath. I am a career transition coach, and I help women really figure out what is the business or career that's meant for them. You know, so many women that I'm working with right now are really stepping into their life's work. You know, like, we all know we came here for something, right? And for some of us, it's a big thing, and some of us, it's something in their home. But there's so many women out there who are recognizing that they've got this nudge. Their soul is nudging them forward, and basically, I help them figure out what exactly it is, and we actually transition them into whatever career or business that's got their name written all over it. And I do this through a signature framework that I created. I actually used to be a CPA in a soul-sucking career, which I hated. I mean, on paper, it was wonderful. It looked like I had it made, 6 figures, climbing the corporate ladder, but I was dying on the inside. So I went on a path and a journey to figure out, well, actually, what makes you fulfilled? And now I help women do the same. So, So Sonia, please take it away and share all you've got to share.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. I'm very excited about this topic. It's one near and dear to my heart. So if you don't know me, my name is Sonia Miller. I'm an empowerment coach for professional women who feel that they're meant for more. And I help my clients to shift from settling for less to being sought after. Many of my clients are, again, executives, C-suite, entrepreneurs, business owners, all types of leadership emerging and actually expressing. And the thing that I have seen over almost 30 years as a coach is these women are missing opportunities. And I was one of those too. We are settling because we don't know any better. And the key reason is that we operate because we've been conditioned, because we are products of our environment, to operate more as human doings versus human beings. And so doing is great, it's necessary, and hard work has its place, but it can only take you so far. So the way I support women to really finally get, stop the settling and be sought after and get the opportunities, the acknowledgement, the promotions that have been eluding them without wasting time or working harder, is to tap into the skills of being. The power of being. Your presence is more powerful than your performance. And we really learn how presence actually is more productive, more powerful. You learn how to be valued for who you be, not just what you do. And the way I love to teach this is a program that I created called the Receive Now program, where students learn to start receiving what they want right now by tapping into the power of being and learning a very natural skill set that has actually been forgotten for many of us because we become such hard workers and have come to over rely on that. So this is my passion, been doing it my whole adult life. When I left corporate America and I found my way out of being a stock and bond trader, For me personally, it wasn't an alignment, but supporting leaders to be all that they're called to be really is my passion. So thanks for being here. So I guess I'm going to go into now next the overview. All right. So today's topic at the Career Doctors is all about how meeting your needs actually unlocks freedom and power, the freedom and power that may be eluding you. And so this is a juicy topic. And what we've done is we've identified 3 keys to really have it be something that you can sink your teeth into. And we're also going to give you, in addition to the 3 keys that we're going to unpack, an awareness practice and an aligned action so that you can build on what you learned today and take it into your life immediately. Excuse me. So the first key we're going to talk about is, we're talking about freedom and power. What is power? We're going to actually talk about what power is not, and how you know if you're being powerful, how you know if you're feeling powerful. I mean, actually asking that question and making ourselves aware of it. The second key is what it looks like when your needs are not met and then they are met, and how meeting your needs actually connects to and opens up the flow of your power and the fulfillment of that. And then finally, we're going to talk about solutions to actually meet your needs. Once you've started to connect with what your needs are, how do you get them met? And I won't get ahead of myself because I can already feel like wanting to illuminate more. So we'll go with the flow. But those are the 3 keys that we're going to address today. So with that, I'm going to go into key number 1, and I'm going to talk about power dynamics. And I really invite everyone who's here live or will be listening in on the recording to, if you have a journal and if you're here live, to throw in the chat, what are the ahas as you think about your sense of personal power in the workplace? And again, Andrea and I are so passionate about this because when you really take the time to hit the pause button, we spend most of our waking hours in our workspaces. And if you think about spending most of your working hours in a space, in an environment where you are not happy, where you are tired, where you are drained, where you feel like you are living for somebody else's needs, goals, and objectives, whether it's the company or a culture or your superiors, that will just drain you of your life force. It's your life. And you can have a work that's in alignment with your life, who you are here to be. You know, I'll just say, side note, but it's been a driver in my life. My father passed away when he was 50 years old. That has been a very strong driver in, this ain't no dress rehearsal. We have this one life to live. We are here to support you to have the work piece of it, which ripples out, as Andrew said, into every area of your life, be everything that it can be. Have your best life. So that being said, let's talk about what is power and how do you know if you actually are powerful. So I like to always start from looking at, well, what is power not? Okay, what is power not? I think everyone will agree that you know that you're powerful because you feel it. We either feel powerful or we don't. It's a feeling. But what often happens when we're not conscious of, oh, it's a feeling, and then how does this translate to my actions in the world, is we operate unconsciously about power. We don't even know. We just don't feel good. We feel squished. We feel tired. We feel depleted, right? So what power is not, in all that I have had taught to me through my own experience and all of the clients I've worked with, is it's not feeling trapped. It's not feeling constrained. It's not feeling small. It's not feeling handcuffed. It's not feeling like you have to shrink or accommodate or contort yourself. That's what power is not. Another thing that power is not is, it's not, and here's a real myth buster, it's not control. A lot of us confuse power with control. And so what happens many times in workspaces is we actually enter into, a work environment where a certain power dynamic is already established. We aren't necessarily aware of, what do I need? And there's the word need. What do I need in order to feel free and powerful? And because we're not aware of it, we go into a job, we go into a career or a path, right? hoping to feel fully expressed, hoping to feel satisfied without a conscious awareness of what we need. And if we're unconscious, we just enter into a work environment. That power dynamic, what power is pre-established. And then we start looking outside of ourselves to see, all right, how do I feel powerful here? Who do I need to be? What do I need to do? And we start to try to fit into it as opposed to bringing it already and knowing what that is. And so we talked about this in episode 1 about the difference between fitting in and belonging. And the moment you are driven to fit in, you've given away your power. Okay, because it's not about you, it's about what's out there and how do I mold myself to that. All right. So what that does is it sets up a problem. You have two choices when you've given away your power and you're trying to fit into the established power. You either have to fight to do what you want and be who you want to be, because you've now got an adversarial relationship as you start to feel what isn't feeling good, what isn't feeling free, what isn't feeling powerful. So either fight it, and that's no fun to be at a job where you're constantly fighting, right? There's no alignment, or you submit and you just bend yourself to the environment. But in both cases, you don't necessarily feel free or feel powerful, okay? When you're not feeling powerful, you feel tired, you feel small, you feel trapped, you feel constrained. However, I invite everyone here to think about times in your life, whether personal or professional, where you actually felt powerful, and start to give language to those feelings. And it's most powerful, instead of me telling you, you start to like, oh, when I was feeling powerful, I was in this environment and I felt. And I'd love to see those come in the chat. Like, how do you know when you're feeling powerful? Put some of those words in. How are you feeling? What's happening around you? Okay. So that's kind of an external world dynamic with power. And then this naturally leads into the inner world of feeling powerful or not powerful. Okay. You may actually not have a strong sense of this. You know, what is my inner power? Do I believe that I can have my needs met? Do I believe that I can actually be who I want to be here? And sometimes that happens and you're unconscious. You don't even know. These are all dynamics that are basically telling you, if you feel good, you feel powerful. If you feel bad, you're not. So these feelings are happening, but you don't have a conscious framework of, this is what my inner power is. My needs are met. My wants are fulfilled. I feel aligned. There's a flow. There's a groove. I feel supported. I feel valued. I feel seen. These are all some of the ways that we know we're actually feeling powerful and free in our workspaces. So I'd like to pass it off to you, Andrea, to see if you want to chime in with any stories or examples of how this can play out in terms of what you've seen with your clients.
Yeah, thank you. And that was so beautifully articulated, Sonia. Explained it really, really well. And I think the big part, what's coming through for me, is how much we've been conditioned to look outside ourselves for power. And I think you nailed it when you talked about, the difference between power and control. Well, we nailed it in many aspects, but that's a big one. What I notice with the clients that I work with is the mix up between the two, is we grasp for that control, which is just it's really outward, where the sense of power is an inward. It's an inward experience. So that's what I have noticed most often when women give their power away, is they do grab for all of that control. And we know it doesn't work. It's fleeting, right? And I mean, I've been there. I think, that's the thing, is we know what that's like, but what we end up doing is looking for that outside external validation. So that's the piece, I think, is to really recognize when you start to do that, because that's what you're really looking for, right? You're looking for your internal power when you start trying to grab for control.
Right.
And that's what I see the most. So thank you, Helen. I'm confident, energetic, motivated, inspired. That's beautiful. I love those. I mean, those are 4 of my favorite words.
Yeah.
So that's that would be my example, is just grasping for control, but also what you said about trying to fit in. It's like we turn ourselves into these pretzels. right? And it's try to get that sense of inner peace, and it doesn't work. Yeah. So,
Yeah. So with that, would you like to move on to
yeah,
key number 2?
absolutely. Okay. So, having your needs met. Again, this is a topic. This is the first thing I do with clients because it is so, so important. I look at this as really the foundation. So, first of all, I'm going to explain and describe what happens when your needs are not met. So, if you think about it, like, we've been talking about here, and Sonia said, like, our careers take up a lot of our not only like calendar time, like really look at the hours in a week, but our energy, our focus, everything, right? So if you look at, say, come Monday morning, okay, so you're going to a job where you are not having your needs met. What does it look like? Monday morning, you're probably feeling, not great, right? You're like, it's Monday, but you go to work, you do your thing, and as the day goes through, what you're actually doing is you are giving, you are doing, and it's all this outward energy, like it's all going out. So when you get to the end of the day, if your needs aren't being met, all you've really done is you've given, right? So you get home and maybe you're tired, you maybe, order in or turn on some Netflix, and then, Tuesday morning comes around and you do the same thing. So you're going to this place and doing this job, and you are giving and you're giving and giving. You get to the end of the day, Tuesday, and you're probably a little more tired than you were on Monday because you're putting out all this energy and your needs aren't being met. So nothing is coming back to you. Wednesday comes around, same thing. By Thursday afternoon, you're like, I'm tapped out. Like, I am tapped out. So you may say your energy was up here. By, Thursday, you're down here. And then by Friday, you're just like, I am so done. And so what do we do on the weekends? And we hear about it on social media, right? You hear about it everywhere, like the weekend to recharge. Well, that in itself is a red flag warning. If you need your weekends to recharge, basically that is a sign your needs are not being met. You shouldn't need your weekends to recharge. I don't recharge on my weekends. Like, that's not, I do different activities, but I don't ever have this mindset that I need my weekends to recharge. And in fact, I actually enjoy working on the weekends. I'm often quite inspired to work on the weekends. Like, I actually genuinely feel it from inside. And so then what we do though is we get to that weekend, we recharge, we try to fill our cup again. Now we try to have all our needs met, whether it's going out with friends or relaxing or, self-care, whatever it might look like. We try to fill our cup up again. So then Monday morning, we can go back in and give. And the problem with this is this goes on. It's a cycle where you're Monday morning, you're kind of up here, your energy's up here. By Friday, it's down here. And so you do this, and you bring yourself up again, and you bring yourself down again. You bring yourself up again. This cycle continues. This can go on literally for years. And for many people, this has gone on for a couple of decades. However, you don't stay where you are. Meaning, if you are a fairly happy, balanced person when you started your career, after doing this for years, you're not at this level anymore. You're now starting to feel it. I mean, and we're seeing this, burned out, exhausted, just tapped out. Like like Sonia and I, like, we talk to all of you. We know this is what's going on. And I mean, I wasn't in corporate that long ago compared to Sonia. Sonia's been up for a lot longer than I have. It's rampant. People are exhausted. And it's because we've been in this cycle for so long. And so it's getting harder and harder to bring yourself back up again. Okay. So what happens is when an opportunity comes along, okay, like a job opportunity or a project or something comes along, what happens is because your cup has been depleted for so long, you don't have it in you. Like, you might go to an interview and you might say all the right words, but the interviewer can just tell. Like, we can tell when somebody's really inspired or when they're kind of faking it, right? Like, we think we can say the right words, but our energy speaks before we do. And most people are really recognizing this now. So when an opportunity comes along, you don't feel free. You don't feel empowered to actually go for it. when we're tired and our needs aren't being met, we're not as creative. Like we don't start to think of solutions. So even in the job you're in, and this is when we hear so many women say like they're not reaching their full potential. And it's because you're tired. And it's because your needs aren't being met, because you're stuck in this cycle of just trying to bring yourself up again, trying to fill your cup on the hours that you're not working. And it doesn't work. All it does is keep you in a cycle forever. And this cycle will continue and continue and continue until you literally put a stop to it. And that's actually what it takes, because there isn't going to be anybody out there that will give you permission if you need it. Sonia and I are giving to you right now. However, there really isn't anybody that's going to necessarily celebrate you doing this. Like we can't always expect that either, right? Like it's a bit rebellious. Like, and I've said this in some of my, when I quote people, like a lot of what we're doing right now, what Sonia and I are talking about can feel really rebellious because it's not what we've been conditioned to do. We've not been conditioned to say, I have needs that need being met and figuring out how to do that, right? So now I want to talk about, okay, what does it look like when your needs are being met? Okay, so if you think of that same example, so say you start your career here and your needs are being met, you're going to stay up here with your energy. So Monday comes along and you get to the end of Monday and you're like, oh, actually, I feel pretty good. So instead of going home and putting on Netflix and ordering food, you maybe go out with friends. You maybe exercise. You do whatever. Like it's like we've said, all of these things affect your personal life. It's got this ripple effect your whole life, right? And you start to make different decisions. So you get to Tuesday and it's the same thing. Your energy is staying up. So you then actually incorporate habits in the rest of your life that also actually support you continually having your cup filled. So now what happens? An opportunity comes along. You feel empowered. You're like, damn, I've got the energy to do this. I've got the bandwidth. I've got ideas. Like you have a whole new outlook. So you have that sense of personal power to actually create change. Whereas when your needs aren't being met, you're depleted. Like how can you feel empowered when you're depleted? You simply can't. It just doesn't work. But when it is full, you have that sense of, I've got the inspiration or the energy or the creativity. I mean, we know now, science has proven that like when you're in fight or flight, which Sonia talked about, like it's that submit or fight. When you're in that energy, your brain does not actually bring in creative solutions. And that creativity is actually a big part of creating success, right? When you're depleted and you're in fight or flight, you simply cannot access that. And so what happens is when opportunity comes along, like I said, you've got the energy, you've got the bandwidth, you are empowered. And here's the thing, when you are in that state of being energetic and feeling empowered, you see opportunities that you never saw before. And this is where this freedom piece comes in. Like all of a sudden, like I have had clients tell me this, like when I first start working with me, they've got this view right here of what they could do because they're tired, they're exhausted, their needs haven't been met. So it's this very small vision and view of what's available to them. And then when they start to have their needs met and they start to go into this being state and nurturing themselves and all these beautiful things and tapping into the unique brilliance, all of a sudden they start to see, oh my gosh, like I could move over here. I could do this. And and I have goosebumps as I say this. So I know I'm speaking truth and somebody needs to hear this. This sense of freedom. It's like, this view that we've had all of a sudden just expands. And we see opportunities that we never saw before because we have that ability to tap into that and then to apply ourselves to actually creating that and achieving those results. So if you've got anything to add to that, Sonia, please fire away. And I would love to hear, does this make sense? Does this land about, the difference between having your needs met and why it's so important? I'd love to hear.
Yes, I'd love to hear what's landing for people. And I just really felt inspired to share a client story that kind of depicts an amazing scenario about what this looks like. So I had this client, she's a C-suite executive. And, by all, that thing, you talked about it too, like, boy, we can look really good on paper, but inside we are not fulfilled. We're not happy. So this woman looked great on paper. And she came to me because she wanted to get that board chair position that she'd always wanted. Even, she had all of the credentials, the bottom line results. I mean, it was all there, but she got passed over twice. And so it was very unfulfilling and unsatisfying to be so effective and not feeling. And she literally said, she goes, I want that position. That was the outer world thing, right? I've earned it. I want that position. But when we really deconstructed it, it was like, okay, so we can't control the physical world. What we can do is get in alignment with what we want. So what's the need? We basically talked about what is the need and what the need was. And Andrea and I were talking about it, in both of our programs and ways of working with women, we always start with, what are your core needs? What do you need? That's our starting place to start finding where the alignment is for fulfillment. It's that important. So the bottom line need for her was, I want to feel valued. I want to feel powerful. Her not feeling valued made her feel, as much as she had role power and positions and titles, she didn't feel powerful because she didn't feel valued. And that also translated to her compensation, right? So all of her work was about, how do I meet that need of being valued? Well, that begins in our relationships with first ourselves, because as you said, Andrea, generally speaking, unless you're working for, if you're probably not here if you're working for a very evolved company where you're totally supported. This is for people who are struggling, who need those insights and ahas. So you're not going to get permission from the company that you're working at, or the business that you're working with. This begins with you. You have to value yourself. And so if you want to be valued in your company, if that's a core need, if you're not feeling valued, it begins with meeting another need that I talked about. Maybe you have the need for space. Maybe you're an introvert, not an extrovert, but you work in a space where you're constantly being interrupted and it's draining you because you're not an extrovert and you're energized. So anyway, once she started working on her value, taking that time, taking that space every day for herself, separate from this environment where she wasn't getting that need met, we have to learn how to get those needs met first for ourselves and explore that. Then it was so beautiful to see. It started to show up in our physical world, because our consciousness creates our reality. So one of the things I love that brought Andrea and I together is, Andrea is brilliant at helping you to align with a perfect job that has your name on it. That's that environment that helps you, that reflects your needs being met internally and externally. It's this dance between inner and outer world. And for me, I do the inner world work as well, and that it expresses outer. So this kind of from inner to outer, from outer to inner. You can't just focus on controlling the environment to feel powerful if you're not willing or ready to work on the inner environment that is actually what ripples out into everything that you do and everywhere you go and shows up in your physical world. So meeting your needs is always the starting place. So that's my little 2 cents.
Brilliant. And something came to mind just as you were talking about this client and how you said she needed space. And I think a lot, and I'm going to get this in the third point, there's so many times, and I'm sure you know this too, Sonia, when you work with women, and it's like we downplay that need.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something to be downplayed, and I mean, we've seen this when you talk about personal space and we talk about the work from home, and there's a reason why it's such a contentious issue and it doesn't go away. It's not about entitlement. It's not about, I think that's a lot of what people think it's about. It's not for so many people. It's about actually having their needs met. And if you've got people working for you who do not have their needs met, guess what? From an employer perspective, you've got a big problem, because there's no way people can reach their full potential. Like it's it needs to be seen as a win-win. But that was just an example that came to mind when you, because it really is, and it isn't about entitlement.
No.
You know, I know for me, I'm an introvert. I need my own space too. And that's why it's so dear to my heart. As I mentioned before in life, I've been working from home since 2010. I was one of those people that said, I need to work from home. You know, and having my own space was critically important for me to feel successful and to be successful, right? So I think owning it, you know, that came through when you were talking about that client. So that was brilliant. And I love that example, you know, and this woman who is so successful on paper, which so many women are, right?
Yes. Right. Right.
Awesome. So cool. So now I want to talk about, okay, so like, what does this look like? What can you do? How can you actually, you know, have your needs met? Well, the first thing we want to do is actually figure out what are your needs. Like that is such an important part. And what I do when I work with clients is, and this is really the best way to do it, in my opinion, is to actually go back in your history, because your history, and it's not about going back and, you know, I think a lot of times we don't ever want to like drag our past with us. However, your history is riddled with clues, and it's just being able to pick out those clues. So it's going back in your history. It can be, and I will absolutely say this, it's not just your work history though. Because what often happens is if our needs aren't being met in our careers, what we do is actually make sure we overcompensate and have them met in our personal lives to try to balance it out. Okay. But given how much of your life is your career, you really want to make sure you have some of those needs being met. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples as I go through this. So really to explore what are your needs, go back in your history and look at when were you most lit up? Like, I think of the times when time stands still. Like when I mentioned, like there's been times, I'm sure Sonia, you've had this too, where like I'm like at 10 o'clock at night and I'm working and I'm like, damn it, I'm getting tired, but I am so into what I'm doing and I don't want to stop. And I've got goosebumps today because that is my needs are being met. Like I am actually being fed. My physical body is telling me, girl, you need to sleep, but I want to keep going. So think about times in your history where time has stood still, where you're just like, you don't even have to really think about what you're doing. You're just in a complete flow. Like you just feel like something is almost coming out of you. Like it's just happening, right? And go back and think about not just like what you were doing in that moment. It's also about like, what were you experiencing? Like what was the feeling that you actually had there? Because those are all clues. Okay. So go back, look at all the joyful, blissful moments. But here's the other one you have to look at is where are the moments where you sabotage yourself? Where are the moments where you are almost aware, and we're usually aware, often we're aware that we're doing something that's not really of the highest, like of our highest self or the highest integrity. We've all done it. There's nobody that's immune from that. What are you doing in that moment? And what are you getting from it? Because when we sabotage ourselves, we're actually getting a need met. Okay. It's not healthy. It's not helping. However, we don't want to beat ourselves up because the truth of the matter is we're actually having a need met. So I'm going to give a couple of examples of this to really, really nail it down. So one of the needs that I know, especially a lot of women have, I think a lot of people have though, to be honest with you, but I know especially with women, we have a need for connection. Like we love to feel connected to each other. Women traditionally are more relationship oriented. And we can see like a lot of our cultures right now are very transactional. And I hear this from women, like they work somewhere and it just feels very transactional. They don't feel connected to their coworkers. They don't feel connected to their job. They're just going there. They're spitting up output, like talk about the doing. They're just doing. And so they're not feeling connected to anything. And they're just like feeling kind of like robots. And especially, and I'm giving you an example of a toxic work environment. So if you're in a toxic work environment, it's going to be really challenging to find connection, right? Because people are, in competition, in survival mode and all these things. So how it can look is gossip. We can start talking about, oh my God, can you believe that manager did this? Or can you believe the company did this? And oh my gosh. And like, just, but what you're actually doing is you're connecting with somebody and you're having a need met. So that was like one that I think most of us can relate to, because I know I did that. Like when I was in corporate, I absolutely did that. Like when I was a toxic work environment, like I would gossip. I totally would. I knew it wasn't healthy. It doesn't help your career, doesn't help your self-esteem, does not help your confidence, does not help you feel empowered, does not give you freedom or any of those things, right? That's going to actually help you reach your potential. But there was a reason I did it. And once you become aware of all these places, so look back, where do you sabotage yourself? Where do you do things in your career that's not getting you to where you want to be? It also could be an example where it may not be sabotaging your career, or it may not be like working against you, but it's also not getting you anywhere. So I'll give you another example. And this was one that I did. So once I realized the gossip was really bad and I fully owned that, when I was in corporate, like I was a CPA and connections one of mine, right? So what I would do, I used to laugh. Charlie Brown, when they would have like a cup, like Lucy had a 5-cent cup, like people would come into my office, they would sit down and they'd tell me everything that's going on, like with their life and with everything. And like I was the office like psychologist almost. I mean, obviously it was leading me into coaching, right? And people telling me everything. But that's how I got that need met. Now, that didn't help my career as a CPA though. Like, make no mistake, that was maybe not destructive, but it also wasn't helping me, right? So, there's a lot of sneaky ways that we can have kind of our needs met. But is it working for you? Is it empowering you? Is it giving you freedom? Is it taking you to where you want to be and what you really truly want? Because if it's not, then something needs to shift, whether it's, the job, the company, the career, whatever it might be, or even having a conversation with your boss. Like maybe it's as simple as that too, right? Like everyone's situation is different. However, it's going back and looking at those patterns. And here's the other part. Don't judge it. Not judge your needs, especially if you go back and you see you've self-sabotaged. You have a need. Like I always say, when we know better, we do better. And we pretend and deny that we have these needs is actually only doing us a disservice in such a massive and significant way. One of the ones, I was working with a client, I think it was last couple of weeks anyways, and we're working through her needs. And we were talking about the need for influence. Like she wants to have an impact, and she's kind of like, I feel almost like I don't know, because I don't want to put words in her mouth because I don't quite 100% remember the conversation, but she felt funky about it. Like, who am I to do this? Right. And I've heard this from clients before. Like, is that like, am I wanting to control things, or am I wanting to do all these things? And I'm like, you know what? We need heart-centered, conscious, empowered people who are working in light to have influence. We want this now, but then we judge, like, who am I? Like, who am I to do this, right? So there's all this judgment. I have a desire, a huge desire to have an influence. I do want to change the world. I want to empower people. I want them to live their fullest and best expression of who they really are. Is that a bad thing? Absolutely not. Right? So that's another thing we can really do is really judge this need. And I do believe it also goes back to this notion that, it's being needy, or we shouldn't have needs, or we go to all this stories, accept that you have needs, figure out what they are, and then start to work that journey of figuring out how to get them met. That's what's going to give you all the empowerment and the freedom the freedom to explore those options that are available to you, that are there right now. You just can't see them, right? So, got anything to add to all that, Sonia?
Just so good. I'm just digesting all of it. So good. Well, so staying with this point about how to get the solutions around getting your needs met, I feel like, Andrea, you really talked about be a detective, get curious, and that begins first with, again, you giving yourself permission to actually have needs and getting to legitimize that you get to have your needs met, and really challenging that part of you that maybe has thought, well, this is just the way it is. No, it's not. It's what we've been taught. It's what we've been conditioned. It's how we've survived. But legitimize, you get to have needs, get curious, be a detective, look in your past, see what felt good, see what didn't feel good. That's, and then noticing when you're judging and practicing suspending judgment. The other thing that I would add is, besides curiosity, is get educated. All right. We invest a lot of time, energy, and money in getting educated in our hard skills to perform better in the workplace. Great. We're great human doers. But as far as being a human being, which is the part that brings the fulfillment, we're not always as educated. And I remember when I learned on my journey that I had learned to become needless because my sense of value came from what I did and what I achieved, not in my personhood. That personhood that you connect with and nurture is what really brings you your fulfillment. So there's many ways. Just start, saying to yourself, I'm willing to learn what my needs are. And one of the ways that I did it and I do is I start with 10 core needs. Like, in the same way that your personhood learns to value your emotions and see the power of your emotions. When I started my journey with feelings and emotions, because I was the talking head, I was completely disconnected from my feelings, from my conditioning. The starter place was somebody said, well, there's 4 basic emotions and you learn them, you remember them because 3 of them rhyme: mad, glad, sad, and scared. With emotions, with needs, you can start with your 10 core needs. And just a few of them we've talked about today. Feeling valued, needing space. Believe it or not, rest is a need. Play is a need. The need for attention, the need for availability. These are personhood needs. And when you start to get in touch with the power of your being a human being, not just doing, and you legitimize that, you can see, well, how does this translate to a satisfying work experience, right? So educate yourself, get curious, and invest time, energy, and money in nurturing this part of you, not just your hard skills, not just your doing skills, but your being skills, so you can flesh out how you bring yourself to the place that you give most of your waking hours. So that's the piece I wanted to give one more around how to get the needs met, get educated.
Brilliant. Love it. Love it. Love it.
So I think we're starting to move into our wrap-up session, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's then talk about, I want to do a little bit of a recap. So we talked about 3 keys around meeting your needs to unlock your freedom and power. We talked about power dynamics, what it is and what it's not, what it looks like when your needs are not being met and when they are being met, and also solutions to begin getting your needs met so you can really unlock the fulfillment, the joy, the possibilities, invite the opportunities that you just couldn't see. Not just in your awareness, but also in manifesting either the dream job that has your name written all over it, or the opportunities to actually manifest thriving more fully exactly where you're planted. So you actually do have the power to enjoy the place you're at if you want to stay there, but you just haven't known how to have it feel better. So all of that comes from this self-awareness. So that's what we talked about today. And so we want to give you 2 takeaways that you can bring into your life now to bring more life to this. First, an awareness practice. Okay. The awareness practice, which is just contemplating, thinking about it, noticing, is get curious about what your needs are. And I'm going to invite you to not just ask yourself in your mind, I wonder what my needs are, but a really great way to get curious and have new ahas come is Notice the sensations in your body. Don't just live in your head as a human doer and thinker, but human beings feel and experience. That's part of becoming more holistic in your approach to your joy and fulfillment. Notice the sensations in your body. It's really simple. When you feel good, your needs are being met. All right. You're feeling powerful. You're feeling free. When you don't feel good, knot in your stomach, tight chest, shallow breathing, that's always a clue that there's an unmet need. Just be curious. Okay. And if you notice that you're judging, practice suspending judgment and just shift to a willingness to legitimize. I get to have needs and I'm willing to discover what they are. So that's your awareness practice. And your aligned action. I'm a big believer of affirmations, and Andrea and I talk a lot about journaling and writing and just getting curious. I use a lot of willingness affirmations. So I'm going to invite you to start replacing judgment with a statement of willingness. That is your invitation to the universe. I am willing to regard my needs as good and valuable. Every time you judge them, stop, notice. I am willing to regard my needs as good and valuable. Imagine that. Imagine that. Because where your attention goes, the energy flows. I'm willing to believe that I can have my needs met. Imagine that.
I love the willingness piece. I think that is so critical when it comes to affirmations.
Yes.
Is we try to stretch too far sometimes, and it's just say, I'm willing. Like, yeah. I don't have it all figured out yet. That perfectionism, where judgment and all that stuff that we've been taught, right, in the world, right. Just throw that crap out.
Right.
Yeah, I'm willing. Like, okay, so this is a new concept to me. I'm not fully landed yet in my body and feeling it. However, that willingness, that's the door opening. That's the door opening to a new reality.
Yes.
So I love that, Sonia.
Yeah. And the other thing, the reason I'm so passionate about willingness affirmations, Andrea and I talk about this all the time, is you only will manifest that with easily. If you want easy manifestation, you must be in alignment, right? You can always find something you're willing to do, willing to believe, willing to learn, willing to experience. If you're willing, whatever you're willing, there's your alignment. And that becomes your invitation. Instead of affirmations where we're trying to talk ourselves into feeling something that we just don't buy into, and then you're trying to fix yourself because you're not, and you try to override your feelings, that's just resistance. Willingness invites alignment. So really powerful way to redirect your consciousness. And then as you were saying, Andrea, the other alignment journaling exercise could be write about times in the past when you really felt like your needs were being met. And just that will open up more awarenesses about, yeah, I want more of that. So there's your awareness practice and your aligned action. We would love to hear people checking back in. Again, join us in our Telegram group if you want to engage with this, if you want to receive support, if you want to nurture your own awarenesses with other people's awarenesses, just DM us if you'd like the link to that. And, we want your feedback. And we're here to serve. We're here to find out what is going to be most helpful to help people have the careers they love. Because again, we spend most of our waking hours, a world full of people who are actually doing work they love. It's a ripple effect. It's a ripple effect. Also, we have something really exciting to unveil. We have created a brand new landing page, a website in development called thecareerdoctors.com. We're going to be posting all of our episodes there. It's a great way to get in touch with us if you want to learn more about how we can be of assistance and how we can help you. So check it out, thecareerdoctors.com, and we'll just keep adding everything that we receive from all of you. We're here to serve. Very excited to launch that. So
anybody have any questions? Before we, does anybody have any questions? Yeah. Thank you, Helena and Brandy, for your comments and your feedback. I'm so glad everything is landing. Brandy, that's awesome. Cool.
Awesome.
Okay, sorry, so go ahead, Sonia. I just wanted to double check to see, because since we're live, it's a great opportunity to answer any questions right here in the now, right? But don't be shy. Like we're here to, like Sonia said, we're here to help, and we're both on a mission. We really are.
Thank you, because I couldn't see the chat thread, so that's perfect. Thank you for that. Yes, so next week, please come back. Stay tuned. We are going to be talking about, it's the last Wednesday of 2023. So we are here to support you in wrapping up 2023 with clarity, with peace, and with power, because we certainly know from being human beings on this planet, it's been a rough year for many people. And we often can unknowingly drag the past with us as we're moving forward. So we really want to give you an opportunity and have a show, an episode. It's all about wrapping it up and really seeing how to make the most of gleaning the wisdom that there's here for you to glean, seeing what you don't want, seeing what you do want, wiping the slate clean for a brand new year. And then in 2024, our next show, we're going to talk about how to launch with this year as a springboard rather than a ball and chain that you're carrying into the future. Anything you want to say that's exciting you about our next 2 episodes?
I'm just excited. I'll stop smiling now. I just think what you said is great. It's like, doesn't matter what happened. Like, we just got to start getting to the place where it doesn't matter. It's letting go. It's just letting go and going, do I want 2024 to be my kick-ass year? Yes or no? And if it's all yes, like, we're here for it, right? That's just all you need to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Awesome. Well, thanks for all of you who have tuned in with us. Thank you for being here. Thanks, Andrea, as always. It's such a blast to come together and have a partner in crime in all of this. And remember, as you show up for yourself, your next steps will show up for you. So remember, thecareerdoctors.com, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, everyone. Merry Christmas.